front of committee. I'm going to go to Mr. Barlow. I know there'll be a vivid back and forth. The minister is a passionate guy. You guys have passionate questions. Let's be fair to the translators, and I'll play referee. But over to you, Mr. Barlow, for up to 6 minutes.
All right, game on. Thanks, Mr. Chair, I guess. But Minister, you had promised, as the Prime Minister did before, last fall, that there would be a promise to Canadians by Thanksgiving that there would be fundamental stability or lowering of grocery prices. That clearly hasn't happened. And when your government failed to do that, you asked this committee to do this study. Basically, again, we had done this last spring. But in knowing that those promises did not come to fruition to stabilize grocery prices, as food inflation is still well ahead of regular inflation, would you not agree then, Minister, that policy brought forward by your government should have the lens of lowering grocery prices, should be a key part of those policies brought forward by your government? Would you agree with that?
Well, Mr. Chair, I would disagree with the premise, and I'm happy if you look at the food inflation rate in Canada, the Statistics Canada data shows that the trend is in the right direction, Mr. Chair.
No props.
And I would say the premise of your question, what we asked and what I demanded in front of the 5 grocers when they were there, I was speaking on your behalf as well. I was speaking on behalf of 40 million Canadians. And I expressed the frustration of all of us to say you need to take action. They did submit a plan. I was not satisfied, and I made that very public. And I said there will be consequences. The consequences is that we change the law. And with the new power now, the competition commissioner will be able to go further. I always hear from them that it's very complex, very sophisticated supply chain. And I say, put your cards on the table. If it's that complex and there's a lot of issues, put them on the table so that we will have the power to put line on that and to take action with you and member of this committee.
Thanks, Minister. So I just want to go through some other policies then by your government's brought forward. If you just can answer whether these are going to lower grocery prices. Does increasing the carbon tax on April 1st by 23%, does that lower grocery prices, yes or no?
I would say when you look at the Bank of Canada, and you don't have to take it from me, Mr. Barlow, because I know you trust me a lot. I see you every day in the House of Commons. But you can take it.
Does it lower grocery prices?
But you should take it from the Bank of Canada. You don't need to take it from me. The Bank of Canada, and let me quote.
Oh, no, he's not going to hold
up another prop. I think they said that the carbon
if he goes for another prop, somebody say something about this. Come on, man.
On grocery
it's the same
prices
stuff
in
that
Canada,
it's the same
and I think they
rules
refer to about
in committees that you abide by in the
number
House.
that it has the effect, and
Can't
I think
use props.
that's the evidence that this committee should be working on.
You had mentioned Dr. Charlebois earlier, and according to Dr. Charlebois, by increasing the carbon tax and keeping that in place, it will increase wholesale food prices by 34%. And Canadians, by the Canadian Food Price Index, will be seeing grocery prices go up $700 this year. So I would ask you to readjust. But does amending Bill C-234, does that lower grocery prices?
You know, what will lower grocery price in this country, Mr. Barlow, and I'm taking it from expert, but also looking around the world, it's competition. What we need is more competition in this country. I mean, what you're facing in this country is that you have basically, that's why I'm here today. Just look at that for a second, Mr. Barlow. That's the reason why we need more competition in this country. You have basically 3 large grocers which control 50% of the market. Canadians watching at home will see that. That's what we're fighting, because you and I are on the same side on this. You're fighting to make sure that we have more competition in this country.
Watching at home are also saying Liberal government policy that is actually having the reverse effect on grocery prices. Does implementing front-of-pack labeling lower grocery prices, yes or no?
I would say you have to look at the different measures that we've been taking, but the measure that will have the most impact, I would say, on food prices in Canada is around competition. I would say the Grocery Code of Conduct is certainly going to help to restore a bit more of fairness in the system. And that's not something I've heard not only from Canadians, but we met, for example, with the Independent Grocers of Canada, and they said, Mr. Minister, you know, the 2 things you've done that are the most fundamental for our small stores in region, and I come from rural Canada. They were saying,
Minister,
about the competition aspect of it, and making sure we have the Grocery Code of Conduct.
Costs on manufacturers by $8 billion. Those costs will be passed on to consumers. So does banning P2 plastics on the fruit and vegetable industry, does that lower grocery prices? Yes or no?
I would say, Mr. Barlow, what is bringing food prices in this country up? There's a number of reasons. I mean, you've seen there's issues around, labor shortage, supply chain issues, profit margins, the war in Ukraine. I mean, there's a number of factors, and that's
what
what we've been asking,
have to do with
suggesting, and I think
your
the committee would agree with me on that,
policy?
with the new power that the Competition Bureau has today, having a thorough market study on grocery, I think, would help. We've implemented a lot of the things that they've been talking about. I think reform of competition is probably the gift you and I are giving to Canadians, to the extent you're willing to support that, because honestly, that's what's going to make a difference.
The gift you're giving to Canadians is much higher taxes and much higher costs, which are impacting their grocery prices. And it's incredible that you refuse to answer the questions on the policies that your government has put forward. The ban on the P2 plastics will increase food costs. This is by Deloitte. This isn't by us as Conservatives. By Deloitte, will increase produce costs by 35%, reduce availability of some products by 50%, cost the industry $5.6 billion. These costs will be passed directly on to consumers, increasing their grocery prices. So there are some things where you are responsible as a government that are rising, making these costs go up, and yet you are not taking responsibility for those decisions.
Yeah, you're blaming the war in Ukraine and shit.
I take responsibility for my actions. You know, if you look at what we did since I started in the last few months, just look at my record. We met the CEOs.
Your record was to refuse to answer any questions.
Hold on. We met with the grocery CEOs. We made the most comprehensive reform on competition. We increased the Consumer Bureau affair, and we met with the FPT, and the last time it happened was in 2013. If you look at my record and the record of the Conservative government, I think Canadians at home will see who has been fighting for them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Barlow. Thank you.